Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. My name is Matt Couchberg. I'm a representative of the town of Clarendon. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first item will be the approval of the agenda. Len?
I would like to ask for a change to the agenda.
Okay.
I would like to ask for an executive session after the maintenance bids and the HVAC grant and before the committee reports. For a contract issue,
All right.
rather than having it at the end, if that's okay with folks.
Can we also add student update after pre-K update? This was going to be a Tinmouth meeting, so we didn't have that on here, but Sydney's here for an update.
All right.
And then if the board is agreeable, I know some of you may not have seen what I sent earlier today, but BJ's got a tech bid, a computer purchase. If you're agreeable to adding that before that executive session, Len added?
Sure.
And that's a tech bid?
Yep, tech bid,
After maintenance bids?
yes.
All right. Add that in there. Is there anything else? Seeing none. Can I get a, Andrea?
Nothing. I was gonna second the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
You'll make the motion, you're gonna second? All right, so we got Len, we got Andrea.
Not used to not writing.
Any discussion on the agenda? Or the additions or corrections, or, I mean, the additions to the agenda? All right, all in favor?
His hand is.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's unanimous, so we're good. All right, public input and announcements.
So we did have somebody signed up for virtual. I do not see them on, so I think we can hold some space for them later.
Okay.
But we do have Maria French, John McKenna in person for public comment.
Oh, sure. Is it, do I do it from here? Is this fine?
If that is comfortable for you, absolutely.
Very comfortable for me. Have my glasses so I can see. So I would like to say thank you to the board members here who are representing the communities in which they live for all your work on behalf of our students. Thanks to every single person here who's shown up after a long day of working in our schools and in our district administration, so thank you. It's been a year since my last board meeting, which sounds kind of like a confession. And it kind of is a little bit of a confession because even though I do appreciate my time on the board and what I learned and what I was able to contribute, I don't miss it at all, except for the community engagement part. And I'm here now as a community member and as a resident of Wallingford and a parent of a Mill River student to share my comments on the situation of Bruce Morton representing Wallingford while he lives in Rutland. I don't think he belongs on the Mill River School Board. He's in his second year of not actually living in Wallingford, and he's not even been living anywhere in the Mill River district. He hasn't shown up to any Wallingford community event that I have been part of, and I never see him in town. Saying you should remain on the voter rolls in the school board because you have intentions of returning is not enough for me, and clearly was not enough for the Board of Civil Authority either the second time they were asked to give their attention to this matter. The Vermont state statute that describes residency, 16 VSA 1075, says if a person removes to another town with the intention of remaining there indefinitely, that person shall be considered to have lost residence in the town in which the person originally resided, even though that person intends to return at some future time. I'm reading indefinitely here as unspecified because it takes into account the intention of the person to return at some future time. I don't doubt that Mr. Morton intends to return to Wallingford to live on the property he currently owns, when it finally is weatherized for 4 seasons. But intention is not strong enough link to our community. Around when the board was considering a student request to fly the BLM flag, Mr. Morton made a point of his concern that the US flag at Mill River was not adequately lit. And yet I had frequently noticed the flag at Wallingford Elementary School flying in all weather, unlit, at night. His concern for the Mill River flag and not the one in his own town illustrates his inconsistency and lack of attention to the community he supposedly represents. Current and former teachers are nearly always part of the school board, as they are now. But when a teacher leaves abruptly in the middle of a school year, as Mr. Morton did, and within the same academic year runs for school board, I wonder about his motives and his ability to collaborate productively with the board he has joined. This does not have any direct bearing on the discussion of whether he can represent Wallingford while he lives in Rutland, but does serve to compound my concerns about his place on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. And next would be John?
Yep, John McKenna. I live in Clarendon. A little over a month ago, we lost a student from this school. And this board, a day after Brian Hill made that announcement to the community, did nothing to acknowledge that and acknowledge the harm in the community. And the feelings of the students, the staff, the teachers, the parents. The least you could have done is ask for a moment of silence for that person. It shouldn't matter whether it's a student, a faculty member, a bus driver, a janitor. It should not matter who that person is. But the fact that it's a student, and we are supposed to be student-focused, and you all are supposed to be student-focused, you should have done something different. You should have done better. If you can't do things like that, I question whether you can really honestly say that you're here for the students. I know the family has strong feelings about revealing the identity of the person, but merely acknowledging the same thing that Brian had in his email would have been enough. You need to do better if you're going to claim that you're here for the students. And I would maintain that we lost that student well before that night, because this school's values say that every student should feel valuable, loved, welcomed. And I don't know that that student did. So that's, in essence, a couple of failures on the part of all of us in this school, in this district. And I just want you to think about that. You should have done better.
Thank you.
Do we have Christine on? I see somebody joined, phone number ending in 56. And if that's not Christine, no worries, we're just looking for somebody with public comment.
Dane is on.
Okay.
Okay. I thank everybody that took the time to speak during public input. I really do. Thank you. Board discussion of public comments. Does anybody have anything they would like to say at this time, or think about it and come back to it? I would like to say something. John, I agree with you. I really do. We did drop the ball on it. And I agree with you. I don't know what else to say. And I'm sorry to the family. So, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We do need to do better.
It's not just the family, it's the whole community too.
I agree. Yeah, I'm just saying in general. I mean, we do
Thank
need
you,
to do
I
better.
appreciate that.
Anyone else want to say anything?
I think we were stuck in between a rock and a hard place in some situation with that, because we all wanted to definitely reach out.
but then the family didn't want
Well,
things
Like I said,
presented
Brian's email
or
had already
given to
gone out.
us,
Brian's email had already gone out.
and we couldn't do any further from there.
You didn't have to. You just had to acknowledge it and ask for a moment of silence. That would have been enough.
Which we should have. It was hard. A hard situation.
Believe me, I understand.
Yeah, I know the family too, so yeah, it was.
all right.
Anybody else want to make a comment? Sorry, Matt.
Fine.
I'm not used to.
Go ahead, Doug.
I'm gonna get over this, probably not without doing a little of poking up here. I too had a son that was, that had died during the course of the school year. The school, more the alumni and the people in the school as opposed to the staff. Staff were doing normal things as they do, they want to keep the family thing. I came in here and there was a long piece of paper and the kids had all written something down, Joey this and Joey that. It was as much for their situation as it was for a staff member. That happened during the course of a spring type area. It's not an easy thing to do, and I think the students that were here made a big push out of making sure that they were told, they knew what had happened, and that they were thought process of everything that he had gone through. We did have shortly after the accident and the problem, we had a wake up at the this memory stuff's kind of getting me nuts here. To the where all the students came in for us and stuff, and I had never seen so many people come in that day, and just give their thank yous and stuff. It was, believe it or not, about 1,600 that day, and they were patched way down to Route 7. But it does make a family feel better. It makes the staff, actually the staff here, feel better. There were a lot of staff members that showed up that day. I was impressed, very impressed. I mean, otherwise, it's, I talked to him 2 times a day type of stuff, and that was it. But they still showed up. But yeah, I think we probably dropped the ball a bit.
Absolutely.
Maybe it'll help us all as a group understand what we need to do when something like that happens. And somebody will go forward and say, hey, let's do this, let's do that. We'll get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Well, if nobody else has anything else, we will move along to,
I'll throw one thing in.
sure, absolutely.
Christine had shared with me, she just emailed a comment to be read if she can't get on. She's trying to get on.
Okay.
So are folks comfortable with letting her continue to try to get on? But
Yeah.
then if we get further along and she's not, we'll read that comment?
That's fine.
Okay.
While we have a couple of minutes, I do want to bring one thing up. The Mill River varsity, was it cheerleading?
Varsity cheerleaders placed first
so-
in states at Virgins, so we want to acknowledge that. I am also waiting for, I understand there was a big rock climbing competition yesterday, so I'm waiting for Zach Bird to get back to me to give us an update on that.
Isn't that
And
the girls like 9th in a row or something
I
like that?
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And Nick will find out about the middle school wrestling. They apparently had something big too. So hopefully on the 15th, we'll have updates on all of that.
So Brian, should we move along?
Yeah, well, let me read it
Okay.
because I
Alright.
think Google is being
Alright.
especially weird tonight. I sent her a specific link to get in, and that's not even working for her,
Okay.
which is
Alright.
odd.
If you want to go ahead and read that, then go
Yep.
for it.
So this is in reference to item number 8 on the agenda, Mascot complaint, to the MRUUSD board, recently signed number 152, the act relating to non-discriminatory school branding, section 568B1A and B. surmises that if a mascot's likeness is specific to a national origin or group of persons associated with the repression of others, the mascot will not be acceptable. We're assuming Agenda Item 8 mascot complaint is in reference to the Minutemen mascot falling under discriminatory branding. We are asking the board to please recall the Rutland School Board's mascot debacle and realize that in today's political climate, someone will find fault with any new mascot. For example, one Rutland group opposed the Ravens because of what a raven symbolizes within their religious beliefs. Let's learn from Rutland's public embarrassment. Please do not waste the board's time on a rebranding committee. Please do not waste taxpayer money on the physical rebranding of our school. Please do not create unnecessary student, staff, and community strife and division. The district is not financially solvent. The district has eliminated many educational classes, staff, support programs, etc. because of finances. All monies and energy should be utilized to focus strictly on the students' proper education, support systems, and unity creation. If there's an issue with the Minutemen mascot, then please just call our district Mill River and do without the mascot. Thank you for serving on the MRUUSD board, Mark and Christine Billings.
Thank you for reading that.
Yep.
Does any board member have any comment? Or you want to hold it for
That agenda.
the agenda item, probably? Okay, thank you. So, is that all the, is that everybody that's had submitted for? Okay.
Yep.
So we will move along to approval of minutes from February 1st, 2023 and February 23rd, 2023.
Can I ask a question? I don't
Absolutely.
think I have the minutes from February 23rd. Am I overlooking them?
They were just submitted this afternoon.
That was the annual meeting.
So
Right.
then we should probably just, at this point, just approve the
February 1st.
February 1st. We'll
Okay.
hold off on February 23rd till next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
I didn't know if I was just missing it or,
We
okay.
didn't, wait,
that would be the annual meeting, the 23rd.
It came through as a separate email. Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
hold up
Did
for a
it?
second.
I'm looking for
I
it.
thought our annual meeting was on a different date.
It was on Thursday, the 23rd,
Oh, okay, never mind.
so.
Were there minutes from that meeting?
They were.
They were just submitted.
They were just submitted late this
Yeah.
afternoon, so, yeah, I didn't get to email them out before.
No, no,
Okay,
that's
all
fine.
right.
My
Yeah, that's
question was-
fine. I just want to make sure that, in fact, we don't have them, or I at least don't
Yeah,
have
so we
them.
really can't approve them yet, so. So we'll just stick to the 2/1/23 minutes, which were, they were part of the packet, so.
I'll make the motion
All right.
that we approve.
Do you have a second?
Sure.
Len's a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none? All in favor? Unanimous. Pre-kindergarten update.
I will get that presentation going, and then Sarah and Tiffany are going to share with you. Do you want to get started, Sarah?
Yes, I'd be glad to. Hello, everyone. Sarah Bolster. I know a lot of faces in this room, so thank you for having Tiffany and I here tonight to provide an update about pre-kindergarten. Tiffany, I think you've heard from her once already this year, but she is one of our licensed teachers at our Wallingford pre-K program. The position that I'm in, it was newly created about a year and a half ago, and it was largely created to be able to coordinate our early childhood programs across our district and really to create a comprehensive system for early childhood. And there's been a lot of initiatives. I could probably talk for an hour tonight, but I will not. Brian tamed me on that. So what we are going to focus on tonight is one of our first initiatives that we put into place, which was starting to have all of our staff about a year ago go through professional development to implement a universal screening tool. So all pre-K students that enter into our district now are screened through developmental screening. It's called the Ages and Stages Questionnaire. And what I like about this, and I think the staff can agree with this as well, is that this questionnaire is really caregiver family focused. So the idea behind it is that the parents are the experts for their individual child. and they're enrolling their child in school, and we're the professionals. So we're starting these conversations with families right when the children have their first experiences in school, where we're asking the family their thoughts about their child's development. And the questionnaire, what's interesting about it is the way that it's laid out. It's teaching families about developmental milestones in a very kind of non-threatening or non-telling way to families. And I think we've found it to be really useful. We implement it and administer it 2 times a year, once in the beginning of the school year, and then usually around the second part or the second session of parent-teacher conferences or at the end of the school year is kind of like a surveillance tool to check in to see what sort of growth has occurred for the child. Most of these screening tools that are administered do not end up in a referral to EST or to special ed, but what it does, it enables really meaningful conversations between the staff and the families of helpful things that the families may be able to do at home to help with their children's development, and things that can be done additionally in the classroom. And again, it's all about coordination between caregivers and families and our staff. It's a really exciting time in pre-K. A lot of these families, I mean, this is like, we're their first touch point, right, for beginning their whole school life in learning. So it's a very special job that we all have. Like I said, I could go on about this for a while, but with the ASQ, one other thing I wanted to point out about it was that it's directly tied into our Vermont Early Learning Standards, which may be a term that some of you have heard and some of you may not have heard. But the Vermont Early Learning Standards are standards developed in Vermont for birth all the way up through age 8 or through grade 3. So they work in collaboration with the Common Core standards and the science standards for the state of Vermont, but it's really targeted for our youngest learners. So Tiffany tonight, what she's going to be doing is she's provided kind of like a looking glass into a pre-K classroom where she's going to present some slides of what happens in the work that's being done within the classrooms and how that ties back into the Vermont Early Learning Standards.
Yep, that should work.
Okay, so this is what a very broad outline of our early learning standard. It's a book that's, you know, half an inch thick or so. So we look at developing self. My back is sorry. So approaches to learning. So are children excited, and are they willing to try new things, and about their flexibility and those kinds of things. Social and emotional learning and development, so developing friendships and relationships with adults, and you know, learning about our emotions, because you know, when they're little, their emotions are big, you know, and they're just learning about them, and they don't often have control over all of them, you know, and sometimes they're new, and when you're learning to be with other people who are your age, wow, that's a lot sometimes, you know, so learning about that. Growing, moving, and being healthy, so learning about healthy foods and moving, running, playing, and using our hands to build and do things. That's, you know, underneath the developing of self. Communication is an expression, it's language development, just our words and learning new, bigger words. We talk about big kid words, and they get so excited about that. Literacy development, reading. We read every day, and we have great books that we just love, and they have favorites, and it's just really a lot of fun. Creative arts and expression. We have our art teacher coming in. We have sections we have easels in our classrooms, and we have scissors and paper and glue and all that fun stuff that they're able to create meaningful expressions, you know, for all of us to look at and see in the hallways and such. Learning about the world, so math, counting, we count all sorts of things, you know, things, are they heavy, are they bigger, are they triangles, squares, all of those kinds of things. And then science, we are studying a lot about pumpkins. We have some rotting pumpkins in containers in our classrooms, and they're all black and yucky, and then we're going to put them in the garden, and they're going to grow new pumpkins. So it's this year-long project that we're all very excited about too. And then social studies, so learning about We live in the town of Wallingford. That's where, I'm teaching. So we live in the town of Wallingford in the state of Vermont, in the United States of America, and this is a globe, and this is our Earth, So most of them can now point on the globe where roughly where we are. So it's kind of fun to do all of that. So I just took some pictures. I'm going to try to be fast. I know I sometimes can talk a lot. So an impromptu game of Duck, Duck, Goose. So they were outside one day, and I looked over, and there they were, in their rain pants, and they were playing Duck, Duck, Goose all on their own. There wasn't an adult over there with them. They just decided they were going to play this game, and at one point there were 3 of them running around in a circle, and they were having the very best time. So if you look at developing self, it's my turn, your turn, and then you're looking at communication and expression, like, wow, you are going the wrong way, or this is the big circle, or however they were talking about it, and then just learning about the world, just negotiating with people, and in your big bulky rain pants and hats, doing all of those kinds of things. So everything that we do is tied into those early learning standards, and when they're little, really everything you do can be tied to very many of those, which makes our work very exciting. So in his hand is a paper cell phone that he made. So he, he cut it out and drew it, and then she's just like, wait a minute, that's not really a cell phone. And he was like, but look, but it has, it has a screen, and these are the numbers. So they had this giant discussion about this, and it was just great. And so again, going back, developing self, like I made this cell phone, and my mommy has a cell phone, and she uses it every day. And, the words about, is it really or not really, that's pretty complicated thinking, right? And then just learning about the world and the technology in it, and learning that they have the power to create things that are like they have in their daily lives. So these are some toys, and we did a whole robot theme. This little boy inspired it. There's this this movement guy on YouTube, and he's called Danny Go. And they love Danny Go. I think during the middle of COVID, this guy Danny Go decided that he was going to make his millions, because I'm sure that he is. And so there was the robot song, and I didn't know. He would tell me that this kid would say, and I couldn't understand. It was the robot song. So we did all these robots. So I got some books, and here he is building robots with these little bristle blocks. So the fine motor that's going on there is pretty clear, and just his excitement about it and learning about how things go together and communication, like I'm building this, its arms, its legs, and all of those kind of parts and things like that. So this is this is Big Kid Day. So on Fridays, our 6th graders come down, and we usually read. That's usually what we do. But on this day, this was back in October, we made ramps for these little baby pumpkins, because again, we were studying pumpkins. So we had cardboard and duct tape and boxes and all of these really cool things, and we made these ramps, and they're all very different. This is just one example, but you can see this relationship, and this is only October. They are having the best time together, and everybody made a ramp, and they were really, really cool and amazing. So the science here is the most obvious, but the motor of the tape and the relationship building is all there in that picture too. How am I doing on time? Am I good?
Fine.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we had someone deliver some wood bark to go under our playground structures, because we're supposed to have so many inches, and so they delivered it, and then it was in big piles. So we decided that we were going to get some rakes, and that they were going to help rake the bark. so here's the big rake. We have some little rakes, but we had, we went down and got, Mr. Stork's big rakes, and so here they are helping build, helping move the bark, and they had the very best time doing that, and they did it for, several days. We kind of kept the rakes there, so it was really good time. So it's about, again, going back to the bells, like look at the gross motor skills there, the sharing, the community, like creating community with these 2 children, fixing the playground for everyone to then use later in the day. So my class, wrote a little letter to the fire department because they were curious about the fire trucks. So it morphed into the sheriff brought his police car, and we had an ambulance and the fire truck, and they all came. So this was in the gym, and they all talked about what they, like what their jobs were, and if you, call out, what do you say? Call out, and they would say call out, and the kids would say here, and they would raise their hand and say here, and like that has to be louder than that. So this is really great community building too, because we all hope that that never happens, but my goodness, this, it might come back to them. And we got to go up into and through the fire truck, through the ambulance, and through the police car with all the lights, and it was such a good time. We had a really good time. And the power of the literacy there, right, that we wrote the letter, and then they came, which was really, really cool and exciting. So this is a favorite story. It's a pumpkin book. So these two boys were in my class last year, and this book stayed in their book box for the whole year. It never went back to my house because they just love it so much. So they when I brought it back in October, because I bring them all home over the summer, but they were like, oh, look, it's back. And so here they are reading it, and you can see the pointing to in this counting book, and lots of great things in this particular story. And it, the pumpkins disappear, and then and they have this memorized, and they just really, really love that. So that's a little bit more simple, less involved. But so this is my last slide. So this is in my classroom, and we have shelves that have just random stuff. So these are scarves that I've picked up at yard sales over the years, and blocks and neck and rings. And so they had just taken all these things, and this is what they told me. They said, we are making the world. And I just thought it was just like a perfect way to end this, because they are. Like, these are the ones that are going to be making our world. They're going to be taking care of us when we are old, So it was their words to just end this. And so this is a day, well, this is like half of a year in the life of a preschooler, and all the things that we're working on, and that I, as a teacher, am looking for and trying to build for them each day. So there. Any questions or?
I just want to thank you for the work that you do, because pre-K is the most important indicator for success for students later in life. And this is really critical work, so thank you so much.
And we also have to commend the district for the investment that it has placed on pre-K over the years, especially with the expansion. To be commended.
And I think something we've heard from our pre-K folks for a while is we feel disconnected sometimes from everything else that happens. And I think what you heard at the beginning was Sarah talking about trying to put some things in place that start to address bridging that gap, and you heard Common Core that Sarah mentioned, and you hear Tiffany talking about connecting to literacy. Even though these kids aren't learning to read yet, they're learning the power of reading, which I think is great. So that connection matters to that thing that's so important. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, can I have a son in Tinmouth right now, and I was having a conversation with somebody else, I can't remember, but at another school, and they were saying that their day and he's in the younger bracket, and like their day length was different than Tinmouth, like maybe they didn't stay for lunch or something like that. And for the younger kids, is it the same everywhere in the district, or is it still
good question
different?
Yeah, that is a great question. When the position that I am in was created a year and a half ago, it was different at all of the schools. Whether you were third, 3-year-old, or a 4-year-old enrolled in the district. Hours of access were different. There was a lot of inconsistency, and I don't think that was done intentionally. I just don't think that there was any coordination to create a system, because there wasn't anyone in that position to be able to do that. So this year, starting in September, we did attempt, and we're almost completely successful, with the exception of 3-year-olds at Tinmouth a little bit, to implement a 12:30 pickup time. So it's a program Monday through Friday from 8 till 12:30 at all of the schools. And that was very successful until we ran into a lunch snafu of just when lunch was served and whether the kids were going to be eating in the cafeteria or the classroom. So the principal did make a decision to kind of bump that pickup time just a little bit later so the children could have lunch before they went home from school. But it is 100% our goal to be able to have that equal access for all families in the district, whatever town that they're actually residing in.
And then the other question that I have is one that you probably can't answer because it's still very nebulous, but because there's not actually a law yet, but with what we hear about what's happening with
That's a good
pre-K, do
question.
you see a change occurring with what we get? Because it seems like from my perspective, it seems like we're already set up pretty well for a transition if that does occur. But just, I wanted to hear your opinion on what you feel like if it goes the way it's supposed to, or.
Right. And just referring to the possibilities about the legislature putting in place that public schools would be offering full-day programming for all 4-year-olds within the school setting. So that's what we're talking about. But I do think that we're very in a great position because we're really almost doing that now. We only have a certain capacity. Pre-K is governed by the Agency of Education as well as the Agency of Human Services because we're counted as child care programs. So it's this whole bunch of other layers added on top of it. So when looking at class size, you have to look at the space of the classroom, the number of staff you have, and then a student-teacher ratio. So the one thing that I could foresee that we would run into is a problem with our extended care programming. We might not be able to serve as many families in an extended care capacity that may need it because of their working schedules. And that will be something that we'll have to talk about and discuss. But we're pretty well positioned. And I think the benefit of it is that we can potentially move some of our resources around then. Because we would be getting more support from the Agency of Education for what we're already providing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on our agenda would be student update.
If Dane has something, he can go first.
I think I saw Dane drop off the meeting.
He was
Dane,
on
if you're
there.
back,
I don't think he's on there right now.
okay. Yeah, I don't see him any longer, Sydney.
So I have one update. In previous meetings, I've been telling you guys that we're trying to get picnic tables for outside the cafeteria for like upperclassmen to eat outside when it's nice out. I haven't been doing that in a few weeks and I totally forgot about it, so I got in touch with somebody that from Low Valleys today, and I have so I've gotten in touch with him, and we have got wood for our wood shop kids to build the picnic tables. The wood will probably be here tomorrow if the guy emails me back. So hopefully they will start soon, maybe Friday or next week, depending on Mr. Robbins' schedule of what he wants kids to do. But we have wood for 2 picnic tables out by the cafeteria, and when it's nice out, we just have to probably get in touch with Ms. Thompson or the cafeteria people to just say, oh, we're going outside and eating lunch. So that is getting done, and will be done for spring. So that's all.
It's an awesome project.
Thank you, yeah, it's really cool.
I hear there's a lot of snow Friday night into Saturday, so I think you have a little more time.
So the next thing on the agenda would be the Wallingford vacancy. So,
There,
you've had more than
I know.
I have.
This will just be a discussion because we have only had it, this is our first time being a full board and able to discuss this. Tomorrow night is a reconsideration meeting with the town of Wallingford,
This is 7 PM, right?
6:30.
6:30 as well.
And so basically, no action can be taken at this point in time until further action and has
I'm
been
con-
taken tomorrow
I'm
night.
confused on why is that the case, that we can't take action on it?
Well, I think it would be
Because for.
because
Yeah.
the town is actually having a meeting of reconsideration for taking Bruce off of the list.
Andrea, so I'm going to disagree with that assessment. Bruce Morton was removed from the voter checklist.
He was.
And so by statute, we are required to, I don't know when we were notified of that.
We were notified.
This
Have
was,
a date.
this was a letter that was sent from the town to Bruce, not when we were.
What's it dated? When was the board notified?
We were notified
Because it
that
is
night.
written in statute that we have, let's see,
30 days.
it's
We
VSA
have 10 days to discuss.
16 VSA 731. Once the board clerk knows, the board clerk has 5 days to notify the select board of the vacancy. And then, hold on a second, I can't read my notes. Within 5 days, we are statutorily required, in keeping with 16 VSA 731, by way of our board clerk, to notify the Wallingford Select Board, and then we have 30 days to appoint someone in consultation with the Select Board. So even though the Select Board asked the Board of Civil Authority to reconsider, we don't have the authority to say, oh, well, we're gonna wait. We don't have that power.
16 VSA what?
16 VSA 731.
So we were notified February 16th,
Okay, so from.
which was the next morning after the meeting.
Okay, so in theory, the board clerk would have had to notify the select board on the 21st. That's basically, it's a formality wherein the vacancy is formally announced. And then that starts the clock of, so 16 VSA 424, so 16 VSA section 424, that in consultation with the select board, we have 30 days to appoint a replacement. So again, even though the select board has asked the Board of Civil Authority to reconsider, we don't have the power to say we're gonna wait for a reconsideration. Statutorily, we have to move forward. Even if they reconsider, then we, stop proceedings, but we have a statutory obligation and requirement to announce the vacancy, even if it's retroactive to the 21st, we can do that, and work in conjunction with the select board to appoint a replacement.
I think for, when we had when we were in Shrewsbury, I think, my point is, we don't have any control about what residency is.
Yep.
That's not our jobs.
Correct.
The
That's
thing that
Board
we
of
know
Civil
right now
Authority's job.
for residency is this letter as a school board.
Mm-hmm.
The town sent us this, he's no longer on the list. If he gets removed from the board and then they add him back to the checklist, their select board we'll send him, and then we put him back on the board.
Not necessarily, though.
I know, but that's not,
And
you know,
Yes.
that's,
saying
the
that.
point is, right now,
Email it too if you want.
this is,
Well, to add some more
Right.
information.
yeah.
The town clerk has reached out to us multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first that the town clerk reached out to us. She continues to let us know, oh, here's where things are. So it's not that the town gave us that letter and that's it.
But
That
as
was
of,
what we had at the time when we set the agenda and we warned the meeting.
So on the 21st, the town sent another email saying that they had scheduled another BCA meeting, but then they canceled it due to weather. That's why it is now scheduled for tomorrow.
And that meeting would have happened prior to this meeting, which would have been very
Which,
helpful.
yeah, but it didn't happen.
We did, because you look at the statute and you look at how this is playing out and everything has gotten pretty darn messy, we reached out to legal counsel. Because we don't want to come here tonight and do something that doesn't make sense, something that's not reasonable, because I think the scenario is pretty interesting at this point. Legal counsel was that there is a process in statute to follow. You know, like you were saying, Josh, the Board of Civil Authority has the first level of authority to determine that residency and to remove somebody from the checklist. If that Board of Civil Authority does that, the second level of authority is a Superior Court judge in the county of residency where the question is. Legal advice to us was, when we have a judge's order, we have to act. If things are still in play and that process has not exhausted itself, then it would be prudent for us to put some measures in place, but that it was not necessarily, according to statute, 100% clear that a vacancy needed to be immediately created. So I think something that would be prudent would be to ask Bruce to not vote on matters in front of the board. You know, the scenario of, well, we could vote to remove Bruce from the board. Now we have a vacancy. We reach out to the select board. If that all changes tomorrow night, well, they could just send Bruce back and we could vote to put him back on the board. I think those accomplish the same thing.
Well, and that,
If that makes sense,
makes
Josh.
much more sense than just push.
Doing nothing.
Right.
Yep.
What I heard originally was, we're
Yep.
pushing this.
Yep.
And so if it's,
And I
if
think,
that's the, I don't know if that, you know, do we just ask nicely, or is there a,
I
what,
have,
do we
Bruce
actually, is
and
there
I
an
have already
actual?
spoken.
Yeah,
And he has agreed that tonight he will abstain from any votes until we completely figure out what's going on tomorrow night.
Bruce, are you on?
Yeah, he's up in the corner.
I see
Can you
him
unmute,
nodding.
can you unmute
He's on-
yourself,
he
Bruce?
just did.
Oh, there he is.
Do you agree to not take part in any action or votes while this plays itself out?
Yeah, I can do that. I think you'd be wise to wait. I've been talking with an attorney. You guys aren't attorneys, neither am I. I've been talking with an attorney. So this law has been battered around and things are way out of kilter right now. I could agree to that. Yeah.
okay.
So.
Anybody else?
Well, if we're just asking him, then it's not a, there's no
There's no
motion.
motion, there's
No,
action.
there's
So then we
nothing.
just
He
move on,
has
right?
agreed that he will
Well, that should go in the
abstain tonight.
minutes. I believe
absolutely.
that Bruce has agreed
Yes,
not,
That's an important part of the discussion.
absolutely.
yes.
So it needs to be in the public minutes that Bruce Morton has agreed not to
You will
vote.
abstain from all votes today.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well,
thank you, Nick.
I think,
Raising his hand.
I think
I think
pending-
just to talk. Oh, he was before.
For the minutes, he raised his hand. For every motion you guys have made, he raised his hand, so he is participating.
Well, that's because we just had the discussion.
And I wouldn't say just today,
We
I'd
already had
say.
the conversation
And
with him.
We're in public, you're not in public comment. You're not allowed to speak. Thank you.
I would say not just today, but until we have a decision
Further.
from the Superior Court judge.
Yes.
I think that's if it proceeds to that step, that's what we're looking at. If it doesn't proceed beyond the Board of Civil Authority, then we have our answer. So I think that's a pretty complicated thing to try and get in the minutes, but I think we can get that in the minutes, if that's reasonable, not just today.
We're at that limbo still.
So I've quickly.
Unfortunately.
I've quickly perused what Liz brought up, and they're both for if there's a vacancy. At the moment, there's no vacancy, quote unquote. So to go back to what's proposed at the moment, if Bruce is agreeable, which we just confirmed that he's agreeable to abstain from all votes, I'm good with that.
Does anybody else have
Are we
anything?
voting on this or just agreeing to
No,
it?
it's just a discussion.
Okay.
It's on the agenda as discussion, it's not on as
No, we're not.
action.
I think it's important that the board agrees, but it's not motion.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything to add? Thank you. Next, moving along, we have the Mascot complaint.
Did everybody have a chance to know
So,
that stuff?
yep, so
Okay.
on February.
Liz- Not everybody, but well, run through it.
What are you talking about?
No, Liz didn't have a chance.
I haven't
and
had a chance to read,
couple
but that's
people
all
might
right.
not have had a chance.
On February 13th, I believe that was the date, that's the date of the letter, we received correspondence from the NAACP Rutland Area Branch. The letter was signed by Judy Dow, Executive Director, and Mia Schultz, President. The letter is informing us that they have filed a complaint with the Agency of Education about our mascot, and basically asking us to, they wanted to see a copy of our mascot policy and would like us to change our mascot.
Have we provided them with a copy of our policy?
We did, yes.
Which I believe our mascot policy is the VSBA model policy.
Correct, yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
so.
Anyone want to take a crack at going first?
Do we want a motion so we can have discussion? Because we have a policy that maps out what we should do when we receive a complaint. Technically, I don't think this is a formal complaint. I think the formal complaint was lodged against some of the schools that were featured at the beginning of the letter. The VT Digger article where they interviewed the folks who put this together, the way they characterized it was that ours were problematic, but not a formal complaint.
Yeah, we weren't listed as a formal complaint school, yeah.
But again, I do think it's worth taking this for consideration under our board policy. That way there are no questions that we didn't do what we should have done.
I
I
agree.
think that's
But is
being
that
safe for
set,
them.
because there was the longer letter, but then
Did
there was
we
the
move to
shorter letter?
discussion?
This was this is a short letter.
So-
Yeah.
Let me pull up the
'Cause
policy.
is that one explicitly to our, like, this email was separate to this one, or is this just a continue?
This was like a cover letter.
I think
Yeah, it was
everybody got both of those.
Right.
Yeah, they all did.
Because doesn't that top one imply that it's a
They were
No.
attached.
It implies it was a complaint with the Agency of Education, but
Okay.
not a complaint against us.
Nice, okay.
Which is,
Our school just happened to be in that complaint
Right.
as identified as,
yeah.
Well, it's a
Possibly.
mascot name associated with violence.
exactly.
So here's what I would recommend as a motion, because I can't make a motion. Looking at our policy, an individual may request an opportunity to appear before the board for purposes of presenting the complaint, relevant facts, and further explanations. The board shall hear the complaint in a fair and just manner. The board shall render a decision within 45 days of the hearing, which must include a summary of the facts and basis for the decision. So I think we could do one of two things. We could make a motion to reach out to them and offer that appearance that, they have guaranteed under policy. So we could do that tonight. Or we could make a motion to decide to affirm the complaint. Then we could discuss and then we could vote. Or we could make a motion to deny the complaint and then we could have discussion and vote. So two paths. We can either make a motion to reach out to them and give them an opportunity, and that would be our hearing, or we can treat this as the formal complaint and make a motion to either affirm or deny the complaint.
Are we
and-
still in open discussion?
Yes,
Yes,
we
we
have
are.
not made a
We haven't
motion
made
yet.
any motion
So,
yet.
going back to the letter we received, the NAACP is a nationally recognized organization. They have roughly 300,000 members and a budget of $25 million. Our F12 policy says an individual may request an opportunity to come before the board. The letter was signed by the president and executive director. The NCAA is, again, a nationally recognized group, and it was signed by 2 individuals.
Right, because they have regional, like, because it's the Rutland. It's like saying, like GE is a national corporation, but we have a plant in GE. So if somebody,
So
You
I
know,
don't
like-
see how it falls under an individual may come
I-
forth. Me, Nick Flanders, I have a problem with your mascot.
I would
versus-
almost guarantee if you reached out to them, one of them would individually be willing to do that. I think it would
I'm not saying they
be,
won't, but the
yeah.
way it's currently proposed, it doesn't follow
Yep.
the policy.
I'm
Fair
in
enough.
favor of giving them the opportunity to come and speak about their complaint. That's my opinion.
I agree with that
Yeah.
because I don't know anything about this and I'm always about learning new things and understanding. So I would absolutely be open to understanding this issue and inviting a representative in to speak with us about
Has
it.
everybody had a chance to read our non-discriminatory mascot and school branding policy? Okay.
And just to go back to their letter, there's a sentence there near the end that says, "We," meaning the 2 of them, Judy and Mia, are available to discuss any of these issues with you to go more in-depth. And
There's a
since
local.
we don't have on the agenda any action listed, I think for us to make a particular motion
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
of either agreeing that it needs to be changed or disagreeing that it needs to
Yeah.
be changed is not
Yeah, no, good point.
Is
Good
not-
point.
a road we should go down. I think, since we're having a discussion and it says in the policy that the individuals have
They're guaranteed that.
the ability to come before the board
Yeah.
and speak what they have to say. And they ask and say, "We're available to discuss any of these issues with you to go more in-depth." And I think we really need that because we're not, well, it's just, this is a separate section of
It's not very clear.
mascot names associated with violence.
Which doesn't really fall under the policy, actually.
Right,
It's
right.
a-
Well,
a
it's how you
legitimate- It's a
interpret-
legitimate
Right,
concern.
Yes, and
and that's what I think we're, and I think, so we're not making a motion, but we're going to ask, we're going to reach out.
Reach out to them and invite them
And
to
the
come,
policy
yeah.
guarantees that, so I think it's reasonable to not have motion. So actually, no, good point, Len. We can reach out
Okay.
and let them exercise that right.
Yep.
And we'll get it back on the agenda when they can be here, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
who,
If I may, too, I'd like
Yes, Sam?
that it's 2 organizations, it's not just the Rutland Area NAACP, but I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, so I apologize, but Getanaka is an indigenous organization. So it's both groups, that's who Judy is representing, just putting that out there.
I apologize, I didn't see that after the executive director, that's on me, I
For
apologize.
sure, there's not, yeah.
Yes,
Just wanted
sorry
to
about that.
Yeah, I
come in,
see
put
it.
that out there.
Okay, that's totally on me, sorry.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
So we can reach out to
Who?
whom?
I think it falls under administration, because isn't the,
It's addressed to school board chair.
Yeah.
So,
so I guess.
What does does the policy state? Is there anything
policy.
specific in the
Back to
That's the
policy?
top part. So there's like the administration responsibilities.
I got it.
I just want to make sure that whomever,
I think
Bruce, you have your
wants
hand
to-
up?
But he can't be
can
part of the
talk.
he can't be part of the discussion.
He can't
because
He
he
can't
can't,
Consider in public, I think.
but we can't,
Yeah.
Nick
can't-
just
we
said he
can't-
can't
we
talk
can't-
into public.
sorry, never mind, Bruce.
No, he can't vote.
I know, but
Public's at the beginning.
he's not part, right now, we're asking him to not, right now, we're asking Bruce to abstain from board activities.
The clarification,
talking
the
is board
clarification was
attendance.
to abstain from voting. If we could rewind, it said
Okay.
abstain from voting.
So,
Well, we
but,
didn't
yeah,
vote
but
on
to
it.
Josh's point, you did silence John in the same way that Josh is now asking Bruce to abstain from the discussion because we're not in public comment.
But is Bruce public or is Bruce
That's what
on
we,
the
So we
board?
might want to go back and, can we go back and clarify the language of our previous agreement? Since there's a little, seemingly there's some misunderstanding.
I don't, yeah, because it's,
I think it's reasonable to treat Bruce as a member of the public until things are sorted out. I think that's the,
Then he can't speak.
yeah.
I think that's just where it has to be right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
And if the board
Abstaining from
wants
board
to listen to the public,
participation.
they have to listen to all the public.
Right.
And that's the board's choice, I think.
Right.
So anyway,
so can I ask?
what was your question again, Len?
I'm sorry.
Because I have the policy right in front of me.
Who's doing
Who's
this?
gonna be reaching out?
Who reaches out?
I think the board, because under
I
complaint,
will reach
it's all the board, under the
Okay.
complaint part.
And it was directed to the chair, so
So
I
Andrea,
will reach out.
You will do that?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're,
I am only not acting as chair tonight because I have to leave in a half an hour. So instead of revoting Matt to be chair, it just kind of made it a little smoother. But I will reach out to them.
thank you.
You are welcome.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? All right, thank you, everybody.
Do we want to put it back on the agenda for the 15th? As a little update?
We can tentatively.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
reach
fine.
out to them
Yeah,
and see if
let's
that
put it
works.
tentatively
Yep.
for now.
Okay.
Just give me a second here. Next one on the agenda would be risk management report.
Oh, and this will be exciting.
This is gonna be good, you guys. This is gonna be really good.
The most exciting part of the meeting is, Stan, are you gonna pop over here in person? Yeah?
Love how he's right there.
You can try and hide it, it doesn't work.
I apologize to everybody, but this was Brian's idea.
Hold on.
It was a good idea to do a risk management report.
This
tonight.
was whomever created and adopted the policy that calls for an annual report. So this is an annual report that's been in our policy for a while, and I know the question of risk management has come up in the past. So we wanted to honor that it's an annual report, and here Stan is to give that report.
It is an
And he is
important,
so happy about
it's
it.
an important item, but it's a very dry item.
And who better to talk
I mean,
about that?
Our insurance company that we go through, Visvet, they provide semi-annual meetings, and it's a free luncheon, and they always encourage us to bring people with them. Nobody's ever had a return visit that's ever gone with me one time. Basically, the response is always, don't ever ask me to please. It's not worth the lunch, but actually it is. Just to start off, I think Brian sent you a little cover letter is that we belong, the Mill River District belongs to a self-insured group called the Vermont School Boards Insurance Trust, better known as VISBIT. Currently, there are 47 of the Vermont supervisory unions belong to this self-insured group. VisBit, offers school, broad-based property and casualty coverage. They offer, a very aggressive claims management program and also proactive risk management solutions that are available to the schools. The types of coverage that we have with VisBit, again, with property and casualty, is the basic coverages, property, boiler, crime, school violent events, general liability, automobile, school leaders, which is you guys, liability, student accident insurance. There's very little exposure that the school district has under the property management coverage. The deductibles on the property are $2,500, and also there's a deductible on the school leaders liability of $2,500. So we've never really built any contingencies in regards to those areas of possible loss, because there is not a significant loss in the district when an event occurs.
Thank you, sorry.
All these coverages come with a $5 million limit liability for each event. So there's, because I know it states in our policy that the board needs to take into consideration, contingencies in regards to losses. So under the property and casualty coverage, there is very limited amount of exposure to the district. Except maybe if you're getting into the area of fraud, then we may have issues there if there's fraud occurring, like anything, something done illegally. With changing times, as we know, we've added coverages in certain areas. One area that we've added is cyber liability, and that's a very very expensive policy. Because I guess it's very hard to, there's not enough, background on coverage and losses. So, again, we go as a group. They try to limit, the cost to us. So there is some exposure on the cyber policy to us. The insurance policy will cover all the events in excess of $25,000. So there is a bigger exposure to us under the cyber policy, up to $25,000. And what's under that policy for cyber is media content insurance, which means devices, internet, any sort of content in any form. There's the security and privacy liability that we come under with having people's personal information. Regulatory action, that would be us being fined for any, breaking any rules in regards to security and privacy. If we have a network interruption, that's covered under this policy. Event management insurance comes under this, and also something called cyber extortion insurance, where you're being held up, and so basically our information is not being released for a price. Another policy that we've added recently is called the Gallagher Crisis Protection. That is, kind of reflecting today's society. If we have a terrorist act or some sort of assault or violent crime that occurs on the school grounds, what they provide is immediate consultation as when the event occurs, and they also provide, again, continued consulting, counseling, and for post-traumatic stress syndrome for after the event. I guess, they define the difference between like a crisis protection insurance compared to risk management. Risk management is that you're always, you're evaluating something that might happen in the future, while a crisis is kind of, it's happened. And they'll provide that consulting immediately to us in regards to any type of event. And there's, you know, I can give you, there's a list of about 40 types of events that they list that would come under this type of coverage. Let's see. Everybody looks still awake.
Starts so intriguing, Stan.
Time to dial it down so we can all get some sleep.
You're doing good, Stan.
I will try to do workers' compensation. Again, that's done through VSBIT. You know, an employee gets injured, they go see our nurse if they are able to. If not, they you know, if they have to go to the emergency room first, so be it. But we do have a designated provider that they must see in order for a workers' comp claim to be processed, and that's with Occupational Health Partners. So the employee would have to see them at some point, either immediately or after if they have to go to the emergency room. They will at some point have to see OHP if they want to proceed with a claim for workers' comp. In regards to workers' comp, we receive quarterly reports from VSBIT, basically listing out all the claims that we may be having and what was the reasoning for that claim. They keep an eye on it. In my 12 years here, we really haven't had them. They've only contacted us once, and there was a certain period of time where we were having a lot of accidents in the parking lots. There were people slipping and falling. So they provided signs or whatever at all the schools, at the exits, just to make people aware that the grounds are slippery and to take precaution. In another situation is the buses are over here in the corner, and the drivers have to walk that way. Sometimes it's pretty slippery for them to get there. They provided a kind of a spiked boot or shoe that they can put on to wear to go to the buses. And of course, some like it, some don't, some still slip. So you can't make them wear it. So it's there for their safety if they want to use it. Last but not least is our employment insurance. Again, that is done through VSBIT. It is not done through the state plan because it's a better plan than to go through the state. We currently pay. For this year, we're paying a 1.09% rate on the first $8,000 of wages for each person. If we were part of the state plan, that would be $15,500. So it's almost double going to the state plan, paying the wages. And again, we are responsible for every claim paid by the Department of Labor. But our rate is not, based on 1 year, it's based on a 3-year average of claims, so we're not hitting any one unusual year. And that, I guess, is all I have.
Thank you, Stan.
Appreciate you guys all staying
Good
late.
job.
Thank you.
I would add one thing. Stan did a great job of being comprehensive there. You may have the question, well, what happens when somebody has an idea of some really wonderful thing we could do, but it doesn't seem to fall under our current insurance? VSBIT is incredible about answering questions. So if we have something like, a new sports team wants to do something to practice out on our fields that doesn't seem safe, might seem dangerous, we can reach out to them. We can have that conversation with them. If somebody wants to go on a certain field trip off campus and it's not to an institution that has their own insurance, but it's something a little less formal, we reach out to them. And they can tell us, okay, here's how you do it to be covered. So even those things that pop up that we can try and be creative with, we're reaching out to them whenever we're nervous about something so that they can give us guidance, so that we can make sure our students can do as much as they possibly can and have those experiences, but we're staying covered as a district so that we can long-term offer those opportunities. That's all I want to add.
Dan?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Don't walk
Yes,
away.
it'll go too far, 'cause
Yeah, I was gonna
Next.
say.
Approval of fiscal year 2023 audit.
Okay, yes, we had a 3-year contract with our current auditor, and that contract expired with this past audit. So for FY '23, they're just proposing a one-year fee or engagement. There's very few firms that do school audits in this state. They're one of the very few, so it's actually pretty fortunate to have gotten them to do our audit, to be honest with you. It's tough to get anybody to want to do it these days. So what I'm looking for is just to authorize the superintendent or his designee to accept RHR Smith and Company as our auditors for FY '23 for a total fee of $27,500. That fee is an 8% increase over this last fee, but then again, that was a 3-year contract that was, spread out over 3 years, so 8% is probably in line with all our inflationary increase in costs. And the reason why we can get away with not putting this out to bid if we don't want to, I wouldn't suggest to do it because it's probably kind of a wasted effort. But the audit services is exempt under Vermont bid law. So.
And that falls within the budget?
Correct.
Anyone like to make that motion?
Sure.
Len?
I'll second that.
Second, Nick? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Thank
See
you.
you. Got it. Yep.
Unanimous, so we're good. Thank you. And now we're moving along to maintenance bids, HVAC grant.
Yep.
Did we ever lose something?
Bus. I didn't know you had that. I'm sorry. I didn't know you had that. Can we do that next meeting? Is that?
It's only good for a certain.
Okay. So Stan also has a bus lease. This is, we had approved the purchase of a bus.
That was the used one, right? Or
Yeah,
okay.
now we have the financing details on that. So, can we do that during other legal business?
Yes.
Is that reasonable? We'll pull you back then. Sorry, Stan. Okay, we have some maintenance bids coming up next.
Yes,
Sorry,
maintenance
Matt.
bids. Yep, you're good. No worries.
Okay. So there were two different documents. There's a board recommendation on bids, and then there's a bids document. So Tim has been working on some projects that have been in process for a while, put it that way. So this Shrewsbury project, we've had some of the ceiling tiles for it for probably about 6 months or so, maybe about 8 months. And they've been hanging out, sitting around, waiting to get everything in order to have those installed. We do need to do some asbestos remediation as part of that, and then, remediate the asbestos, remove those old ceiling tiles, put the ceiling tiles up that we actually have purchased. So Tim did the work to get 3 bids for contractors to do that work up at Shrewsbury. There is building fund money in the Shrewsbury account. If you remember, way back when we merged, individual buildings had building funds.
Mhm.
So Shrewsbury still has some funding left there.
Okay.
So the proposal would be to use the remainder of those funds And then the difference would be paid out of the district building fund, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Those are the building funds that when it comes ballot time, we take surplus money, unanticipated surplus goes into those building funds. We do have the funding there. We've got a fair bit more than this there. This is a project that needs to be wrapped up because we've been sitting on those ceiling tiles for far too long. His recommendation is to go with Catamount Environmental because the pricing is better. There were not a lot of differences between the two similarly priced projects, if that makes sense. So we're asking the board for a motion to approve the purchase of these services from Catamount Environmental.
I'll make that, oh, go ahead. Oh, I'll make that motion. I'll second. That we accept the Catamount bid.
Got a first and a second?
Any questions on
Any
that?
discussions?
No, that's, it's not the
Okay.
appropriate time to. PFAS.
Hearing none.
What is, wait. What is the amount for Catamount?
Here. There's three right here.
27,975.
Oh, okay. That's the one I saw. Okay, never mind.
Any other discussion? So hearing none, all in favor? Looks unanimous. So we're all set?
Fantastic. Tim will be very happy because they're ready to do that work fast, and they want to know if they can start.
No.
So
They
thank
got
you.
approval, so good news.
Oh, it's right there.
And then there's the HVAC grant.
Yeah, actually, ignore that. That's my typo.
Okay. All right.
We're going to be talking about HVAC, but it won't be for another meeting or two.
All right, we'll
in
consider it
addition to
ignored.
that. We thought we may have something, but we don't yet.
Okay. Moving along. You ready, BJ? Technology
Sure.
bid.
Oh, you snuck in. I didn't even see
I
it.
was wondering if you guys.
I know, I didn't
I
either.
saw you
until
come
I
in.
reached the
Hey, board member.
Hi, BJ.
Hey. It's actually kind of nice to be back.
Maria's over there too.
Yeah, I saw him.
Gang's all here.
So what I have brought forth to you today is a purchase of 180 Chromebooks. What I put forth in the budget and what I'm working for is a replacement cycle of computers on a 4-year cycle for all student devices. This would cover 3 grades. Normally I would have waited a little bit longer and purchased this during the summer. Luckily enough, we have still some ESSER funds that we can use to purchase this earlier. We have a brand new assessment coming up. While I think all the devices that we have in place are up to date enough to take the assessment, I wanted something as a little bit of a backup. And because I didn't have to wait for the new budget to jump on this, I just said, let's do this now. So you will be seeing, I'll be coming to you with 180 Chromebooks pretty much every year now, moving forward. I got three quotes. Wally Computer Associates, which we've used before. CDWG, I've also used before, and Newegg Business. I'm recommending going with Wally. They gave us the best price, and we have used them before. This round of these 180 Chromebooks are coming out of both of ESSER funds, so this is grant funded and not out of the regular budget this round.
Great.
It's still available. So my recommendation is to make that motion.
I'll make that motion to approve the purchase of 180 Chromebooks with their licenses from, is it Whaley Computer Associates?
Whaley, they sometimes go by WCA.
Okay. I'll second that.
Second, okay. Any discussion?
I just have one. I know that we've had issues with procurement. Would it feel prudent to say if they can't provide them, that the secondary one, like to give a second option, that's all right to go with?
That's perfectly fine. I'm not as concerned this time around about procurement.
Okay.
Especially since I have a long leeway. This was supposed to be a summer purchase and it's just extra so we can get some. But I'm always willing to take that offer up Sam.
I'm once bitten, twice shy, I suppose, with
Yeah.
actually getting to buy the stuff in time.
And CDWG was really not that far off in price.
Yeah, that's the other reason that it felt, at least to me. I don't know if that means we need to rephrase the question or come up with a second one, but I would like to throw that out there.
So do we rescind?
Rescind the second, rescind the motion, and start over is probably
Okay,
easiest.
So the second, you want to rescind?
Yes, I'll rescind.
Rescind?
the
Okay.
motion. And I will restate the motion that we approve the purchase of 180 Chromebooks and licenses from Whaley Computer Associates using ESSER funds, and in the event that they can't deliver, that we use CDWG.
Okay.
Second
And
that
second again? Discussion again?
More out of curiosity, what do we do to nuke, destroy, eliminate the ones that we dispose of?
There's actually several options that I've explored. There's some companies that will actually do a buyback. It's not much at all, but they will be a buyback. Right now, we're incredibly limited on spares. We have exhausted we've overextended the use of what we have.
Yep.
So I'm really looking forward to having some that are still within their end of life that we can then just repurpose and have extras and.
I have one sitting at my house that's dead.
And I have a
That
question.
hasn't been turned in.
Yeah.
So, having 7 kids of my own that are incredibly destructive and can't have nice things, does this come with any form of like an insurance policy, Apple Care, anything like that? Because I know how my kids are, and yeah, so.
No, mainly because each, we got a really good price on the ones I've got here. They were $228 a piece.
That's not horrible, yeah.
That we're trying to make last 4 years.
Okay, all right.
And
So that proportion is,
we've seen in the past that folks would offer a warranty for $30 a year or something
Okay.
like that. So you go 4 years of that, and you just bought a new device. So
Okay, all right, well,
we've never
yeah.
done
Yeah.
that.
All right,
So that's
well,
not even a
don't give any to my
BJ
kids.
move. That's just how we've looked at it.
it's,
Perfect.
yeah, as Brian said, it's sometimes cheaper just to have the extras on hand, buy extras than it
Just wanted
is
to make
to
sure.
go with those insurance things.
And believe it or not, it's kind of crazy, the parts are reasonably priced. $30 for a screen. So that was 1 year's worth of warranty, and our tech guys, you're gonna hear Ken Scholl's name in a second. He never repaired a Chromebook in his life, and during the pandemic, he learned. And he can knock that stuff out no problem. So we do those repairs in-house,
Nice.
which is not, we never did that before.
Well, it makes
So,
it a lot better then, okay.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm fine with it.
Good question, yeah.
One more.
So, there's not any type of insurance, and I only ask this because as a parent of a current student, I sent money in with a signed agreement in the beginning of the year for if anything happens to the
High
Chromebook.
school offers optional insurance because
Okay.
those are devices that are allowed to go home. So.
I have a 7th grader.
Yep, well, sorry, when I say high school, I mean this building,
Oh, okay.
712,
Okay.
712.
Mill River.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
What
I
did I
thought,
sign?
yeah, what did I
Why
sign?
did
What
I
did I,
get
what did I
child
send
money?
money for?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I did good.
Really good question, Cindy, really good
Yeah.
question.
All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? You're unanimous, you're good.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
BJ, good to see you.
So the next thing on our agenda would be an executive session.
Correct. I would,
Yeah, thank you, if you want to wait, we'll come get you. If not, thank you for being here.
John, have a good night. Good to see you.
Good night, thank you.
Good night, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So folks from the public, we're just going to mute and we'll come back when we're done.
You have to phrase your.
I'm gonna, I got everything here.
Somebody give me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Just start, you're okay.
Okay,
Everybody.
see you, Beach.
Yeah, hey, Thomas, yeah, I got your email. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start.
So we're gonna kick you out, William, we'll let you know when we're done. What's that?
We didn't make a motion.
yeah.
So, do you want to make the motion?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion for an executive session to deal with a contract issue that premature public knowledge would place the board at a substantial disadvantage.
I'll make that motion.
No, I
I'll
made
sec-
it. He
I'll
made
make the
it.
second
He's
then.
seconding.
I didn't realize.
Okay. And then we need to make a motion to enter into executive session, so I will make that motion to enter into executive session.
I'll second.
There you go.
Cindy seconds it. Do we need those written down? It's recorded.
Oh, yeah, I'll make sure Pam has those.
Okay, so it was me and Matt,
And then you and Cindy.
and then me and Cindy.
So Len and Matt, then Len and Cindy.
Oh, at 8:29.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're gonna kick you out, William.
Somebody's paying attention.
And I'm gonna take the opportunity to stand.
We are moving along to committee reports. And before we start with personnel, I just want to suggest that on March 14th, we have 2 meetings listed, which is a Tuesday, and they're committee meetings, but we don't have board reorg until the 15th, so we have to cancel those meetings, because we can't have them.
If we back up, did you say we came out of executive session and took no action?
Yep, we did it, yep.
Len said that.
Len did it, yep.
Right over my head.
So we're all set there, yep. But yes, we have to remove those 2 meetings from the 14th from the calendar, because it's before board reorg, there we go. Say that one twice fast.
Organization.
Yep.
Great catch, Matt, thank you.
So moving along to personnel.
Yes, I have a couple, 3 contracts here for us, I believe. Yes, we met this evening, and at the personnel meeting, we were presented with 3 contracts for approval. The first one is an employment contract for a speech-language pathologist for Michaela Stone, 1.0 full-time equivalency, and this contract actually doesn't begin until July 1st. But we can certainly approve it now, and that way it's in place starting July 1. So I would make that a motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Cindy. Discussion?
I will just say, we are thrilled that Michaela Stone is coming back, because she used to work for us, and we know she's great at what she does, and SLPs are very hard to come by. So we're thrilled to have one of those starting next year. If you remember, we tried to hire at the start of this year. Coral had to scramble and get in place a virtual option for this year, so we're very glad to go back to in-person.
That was that company out of Florida, right?
Yep, correct.
Any other questions, discussions? All those in favor?
Oh.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Second one is a letter of employment for a technology support specialist for Kenneth Scholl, 1.0 full-time equivalency. This position also starts July 1. So I would make that a motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Liz. Brian, you want to?
Discussion, yeah.
Yeah.
Ken has actually worked for us for about 5 years, but as a contracted position. Our support contract with Zones, the company that we contract with, is ending this year. And BJ spoke in the fall about putting that back out to bid. We got some bids, they were high. In-house, we could do it far more cost effectively, and BJ thought we could also manage folks better that way. So it's great that we can keep Ken because he knows our system, he knows our people, but great that we can start to do that in-house too. BJ did run an interview process, posted on School Spring, posted internally, all of that stuff involved our library media specialists. So we're not just by default rolling Ken over or anything like that. He went through the process. And we'll be hiring somebody else to fill that second spot before July 1. So this will be the first one of two that you'll see.
Any other discussion?
Were there actually other people applying?
Yeah,
So like
actually
that
a
second
fair
position will
handful.
most likely get filled?
Well, so
Or is it
the
a-
way BJ approached those interviews, and we talked about it beforehand, let's post and let's see what we get. If we find two incredible people, we'll try and hire two. If we only hire one, that's fine, because we have some time to repost. Oh, there's BJ. He might want to add to that.
Right here, if you want to. No, I'm trying to find the light. Sorry, my wife's home had a procedure and she wasn't feeling very good. So, yeah, so I think Ken was a good fit. I was really happy to have someone that was experienced with the school. And we did make an offer to a second person who ultimately turned it down. But that that prompted me to change up the job description a little bit, to include some training and stuff like that. So I reposted, and I did that yesterday, and I already have 3 applicants for it. So I am very hopeful to fill that second slot with someone who is not only going to be IT, just help desk, but also do some training, some of the new stuff that's coming. So I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, BJ.
And time is on our side.
Yeah.
We've got a little time.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Last one, an employment contract for an occupational therapist for Michelle Bonang, I believe. And I apologize if,
That's right, yeah.
at 0.8 full-time equivalency, and I would make that a motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Liz. Discussion.
Similar story. We're lucky to have Michelle coming back because Michelle used to work for us. We lost our OT due to some personal reasons fairly abruptly. So to turn around and try and find an OT that we know and we know does really well, we're lucky to have her come back. She's starting April 3rd. So this one is a pretty quick turnaround, not a July 1. Coral, did you want to say anything about Michelle or Michaela? Sorry.
Well, we're just super thrilled to have them back. Both did just a fantastic job. They were huge losses for the district the first time, and very excited to have them back. What I will say about Michelle is that contract you just are in the process of approving is a 0.4. That will be a 0.5 for next year. That position is full-time. However, Michelle is not able to come with us full-time quite at this moment. So I've got some strategizing to do in terms of how we're gonna meet those needs. But we were unbelievably fortunate to get 0.4 for the remainder of this year. So just know that next year it's a full-time.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Coral.
Coral, one more question while we got you. Are
Yes,
we
sir.
still short in SLP?
Well, we have the company, we have VocoVision, but yes, that's what Michaela's contract. So next year, we're gonna be perfect.
But next year we are perfect? Perfect.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? And I will not set another personnel meeting because we have to wait until after the board is reorganized. It wouldn't be till the first meeting in April anyways, but we'll talk about it after the board reorganization. So there's no personnel next meeting date set.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you all.
So next we move along to policy, rescind F18, second reading. So,
Yeah. F18 was the 18-year-old, which the state doesn't have it anymore, and so we're taking it off our policy list. And all we need to do, I will make a motion that we rescind F18. That's all we need to do, I believe.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Andrea owes me. Now I'm really done.
All right. Buildings and grounds.
Well, last meeting we were here, I sort of, pulled the top of the sleeping bag over my head and walked into the yard and got quiet. I'm gonna try to come back to be, more with that. Brian, or, I'm sorry, Brian, you're Brian, right? Okay. Tim and Brian seem to be, the two that do most of the decision-making and stuff, which is the way he wants to work it. It wasn't the way that the previous one did. So a committee is not really that much of an issue to have to keep going. But I did want to get back to doing something, especially coming this time of year. We get into April, May, something like that, maybe things we need to schedule in. So a few people talking about what they know had happened in here during the time, as opposed to somebody who was spending the first year here. It's gonna be a little bit better to get more information to that person, which I looked yesterday when I came through. Are the bleachers completely gone now? Or I just couldn't see them?
Not gone, not gone. That's on the table to try and do something with if we can get some funding, that ballot item, yeah, yeah. No, but I think, Doug, your point of, getting Tim some of the history makes a lot of sense. And this year, Tim has really been looking at, oh gosh, what needs to get done? Wow, those ceiling tiles have been sitting there for a while, let's get a contractor in to install them. So he's doing a lot of finishing, wrapping up things that have been in motion. I think next year we have to have some big conversations around, here's our building fund, what are we doing with it? Because we're starting to identify those larger projects that we really do need to get some input on. Right now Tim's knocking out a lot of smaller things. But things that I think folks are very appreciative of, because we did some gigantic energy efficiency projects. We did some pretty incredible infrastructure pieces at no cost to our taxpayers through that performance bond. But we've got the small stuff and the medium stuff to look back at. So,
I think the idea of a B&G committee was pretty much set most when we started doing the bond stuff, the new boilers and things like that. And it's not a requirement for us to do like once or twice a month type of stuff. A lot of it may be just more for Tim, if he needs any questions to be answered, to let us come in and do that. We can schedule some stuff up, put in some time. I'm not one to sit around the table and not do much of anything and then go home. I'll stay home anyway.
I don't remember what the time, I feel like one of the elementary school emails was talking about they were doing, one of them was going to get a
PCB testing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did that occur?
Wallingford is supposed to be doing PCB testing in the next 2 weeks or so. We'll have to wait to get results back on that and then see where we go with that. We are actually doing a tabletop exercise with our principals and district leaders next week, where we're going to go through a scenario where we say, oh, Wallingford got these test results back. What are we going to do? So we're trying to prep for that. We're hopeful that our PCB levels are going to be fine and we don't have to do anything, but we want to be prepared for some problem solving if we have to go, oh, wow, the gym's not usable at Wallingford. What are we going to do? Clarendon is over the summer. And then Shrewsbury, Tinmouth, Mill River are happening later on next year. I don't remember exactly the order, but it'll be Wallingford now and then Clarendon over the summer, and we'll go from there. Good question.
Has there been any progress on, I know it's come up a couple times before in the past, the gym floor at Clarendon?
Yep, Tim is still working with that project to try and get bids and make everything fit federal guidelines.
Okay, perfect.
So we can bring something in front of the board
Sounds good.
Looking at carpet at Shrewsbury, carpet at Wallingford, there are a bunch of projects that Tim's really got trying to sort through. There's a HVAC Tinmouth project through Efficiency Vermont, so he's got the stack of documents for federal grant funds on his desk is gigantic right now.
Sure.
He's sorting through it though.
Perfect. All right, anything else?
Nope,
Perfect.
everything's fine.
Community engagement.
Hi, thank you all. I thank you in advance for indulging me in something I definitely know we agree is overdue, but I don't think it's too late. So I'd like to take this time to acknowledge that on January 30th, Mill River High School experienced the unexpected loss of a student. More information has not been shared out of respect for the impacted family's privacy. We know that the ripples of a loss like this reaches throughout our entire community and can linger for quite some time. To honor this tragic loss, I'm going to ask that right now we partake in a minute of silence together to hold space and comfort for one another in our hearts and minds. Thank you. No one should have to feel alone in their grief over this loss or any other moments that impact their lives. Please know there are many folks in our community who are willing and want to listen and provide you with as many resources as they can. At our last community engagement meeting, we discussed kind of similar topic as to what Doug alluded to with buildings and grounds, so somewhat of relooking ahead and thinking of a post-pandemic sunsetting of those community conversations kind of officially as we are more able to gather, with the percolation of a thought at a reorg to perhaps look at the charge of the committee, considering things like onboarding new members and leaning more into board learning development opportunities, in addition to keeping everyone informed of district event announcements and even spearheading hearing about all the cool accomplishments, like the cheerleading team winning and the things like Nick looking up the wrestling squad, things like that. So that's kind of a shift that we agreed was feeling right in the timing. And so transitionally, next week, music in our schools. It's that time already, it's March again. So our elementary music students from all of our sending schools have been working on stuff independently, and that day they all come together at the high school to then bring that all together along with high school students and perform both at 10:30 and noon 30 on Wednesday, March 8th. And I went to it, it was my first in-person school event, but I went to it last year. And when they started singing together, I fully admit I just started crying in the back of the auditorium. So if you're able to make it, that's a good one. I'm getting goosebumps remembering it. And then I know this is a bit of a last minute, but board members of the Vermont School Board Association is having a webinar at noon tomorrow on onboarding new members and board reorganization. I'm attending, and if they do make a recording or a podcast of the audio or whatever available, I'll certainly forward that along. But if you can't imagine a better way to spend your lunch break than eating a sandwich and listening to a webinar, you're able to everybody should be getting Vermont School Board Association emails. And I'm always willing to just send you that Zoom link. So let me know. And as mentioned, thank you, Matt, for your attention to detail, because I didn't even think of it. We will no longer be having those community engagement meetings until after reorg. So take all that time you're saving, and don't forget to go vote on town meeting day. Thank you all.
Thank you for all of that, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. Finance.
Evening, everyone. We have the following pay warrants for approval this evening from our after-school program. From our general fund, we have a pay warrant in the amount of $196,904.76. From our after-school program, we have a pay warrant in the amount of $1,211.85. From our lunch program, we have a pay warrant in the amount of $60,356.09. From our general fund account, we have a pay warrant in the amount of $40,526.68 for a grand total of $298,999.38. From our student activity accounts at Mill River, we have a pay warrant in the amount of $500. From Clarendon, we have a pay warrant, we don't have anything from Clarendon. From Shrewsbury, we have a pay warrant in the amount of $481.25 for a grand total from our student activity accounts in the amount of $981.25. For payroll this evening, we have regular payroll dated February 1st in the amount of $6,765.33. We have regular payroll dated February 10th in the amount of $610,026.31. We have regular payroll dated February 16th in the amount of $6,436.63. And regular payroll from February 24th in the amount of $612,363.82 for a grand total of $1,235,592.09. And I do move that we accept and approve this payroll and these pay orders as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Nick. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving payroll and these pay orders as presented, thank you so much. All right, so we do not have a finance committee meeting scheduled at this time, but please remember to vote absentee ahead of March 7th or on town meeting day, March 7th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion for Matt.
As we're doing the
Do some
transaction.
signage.
Oh, okay.
That's great.
Awesome.
So did my wife.
Nice.
So during now we're in transact other legal business, two things. One, you wanted to add Stan.
Yep.
And two, we need to make a motion for me to sign as the pay orders because Andrea's not here.
Yeah, sure, I'll make that motion.
A second.
Any discussion?
No.
All's in favor? All right, perfect. We're good.
Stan walking over.
Thank you, Matt.
Here he comes. I should have made a joke about him being boring. He would have walked faster.
No.
I can help with that if you need me to. Oh, there he is, okay.
So this is the bus financing.
Are you done?
I'm done, you can have the floor.
Thank you. No, thanks for getting me in on this. I went back and came back, and I thought I was gonna be able to blame Brian for all this confusion.
Yeah.
He was the only one I didn't tell that I was doing this bid, so.
I get things wrong all the time.
Definitely was on me. I told Ken, I told Nicole, but I didn't tell Brian. So this is the financing of the bus. It's a municipal lease. And the difference between a municipal lease and just doing a regular notes payable is it allows us not to have to go to the voters and get approval for the financing. A municipal lease is a year-to-year
Assistant board chair,
obligation,
whatever.
so
Yeah, just
voters
bring it in.
vote on it in the budget every year to approve the lease payment. If the budget didn't pass and we decided we weren't gonna honor that lease anymore, we would just return the bus.
Stan, what are you calling it, a what lease?
It's a municipal lease.
Oh, municipal, okay.
Obviously, we wouldn't want to do that because obviously that would kill our credit and obviously nobody would ever want to do business with us again. But I went out and we got two bids. Banks aren't interested in doing this type of leasing, so I used something called Municipal Leasing Consultants, which is out of Grand Isle, Vermont. And they go out and do the search to find the best rates they can for you. And also the dealer that we were purchasing the bus from provided a lease bid for the bus they were selling us. I'm going to be recommending to go ahead and use municipal leasing. The terms they are providing us is a 5-year lease at 6.43% compared to the Daimler Chrysler option of 7.1% over 5 years. And I would ask the board to do it's a resolution. So the motion would be a resolution authorizing the superintendent or his designee the execution and delivery of a lease agreement to purchase a used 2020 Thomas C2 bus at a maximum purchase price of $71,100 with municipal leasing consultants, its agents, or assigning.
Municipal what consultants?
Municipal leasing consultants.
Leasing consultants, okay. All right. If no one objects, I can make that motion. I think I got it. I would like to make a motion that we authorize, or he said resolution.
So, yeah, it's a they use that term for financing as a resolution.
So
authorizing the superintendent or his designee to.
So that what are we doing with the resolution?
To execute and deliver a lease
We're making a
agreement.
motion to what a resolution? What's the verb?
What's that?
What's the verb? Approve a resolution?
Adopt, I'm sorry.
Adopt.
That's-
Thank you. I know, everyone's so tired. Okay. I'll make the motion that we adopt a resolution to authorize the superintendent or his designee to execute a lease on a Thomas C2 bus in the amount of $72,100 with municipal leasing consultants. Did I get it right? $70,100. 71,100. Okay.
Gets cheaper every time.
Yeah.
I wish it worked that way.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Second. Any discussion?
Not relative to the bus, but relative to buses. How many do we have that are aging or that we should look at selling?
Tim has 3 that are on the, that he wants to get rid of once he gets this bus.
And he's trying to get together the quotes to do that appropriately.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? It's unanimous. We're good.
Stan, you need a signature from the clerk?
No, not at the moment. We don't have the documents yet.
I'll swing in tomorrow.
But we won't have the documents tomorrow.
Okay, next week. Or next month.
Can I
When I
throw
get elected, I may have to do it earlier.
a couple of quick other legal business pieces? I know we've been doing great about 9 o'clock and getting a lot done, but now we're all getting tired, sorry.
It's all right. We're not used to
Tim
it.
Parent said a couple of other folks have helped his program out, the maple sugaring project, Noble Ace Hardware, so thanks to them for some donations.
Good, yeah.
Pro Cycle, thanks to them for donations. And some employees, Shane Little, Peter Roach, Jody Stewart, Ruck, all made donations to that program. Smoky House Center in Danby helps them out as well. And then a bunch of other staff members he mentioned as being very helpful and supporting the program, so.
He was at,
Wanted to say that publicly. What's
Is
that,
something
Sam?
we can, take a look at? Like, I know, I'm not saying like they stay for a board meeting or something, but, like, is there a time when, I mean, I'm just interested in it, but don't wanna just creep around looking.
Oh, you
for it.
wanna see the maple sugaring in action?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're comfortable reaching out to Tim, I don't mind reaching out to him too and seeing if there's a time. Let me talk to Tim and I'll figure out if there are good times that we can say, hey, board members, come by, watch them
That'd be excellent.
boil
That'd
down
be
sap.
wonderful.
I will check on that.
Thank you.
so, it's in the back of the building by the building that they have for football games, and they're giving the food out. So right in that area, just drive around and park right there. He'll take you.
Well, right time of year, you just smell it and see the steam coming out, but.
We'll invite you, yeah.
Beautiful, but thank you.
Okay, I'm done.
No worries.
Wait, Stan had one other donation he wanted to mention, sorry.
I did, I don't have the paperwork, but the district, over the Christmas break, received a donation from the Vermont Community Foundation. At least, it was it's at least $15,000. I'll get Pam the exact number to put in the minutes. But it was to be used for the foreign language program at the Timoth Elementary School.
Oh, wow.
And that's been something they've done for a while, actually.
Huh.
Cool. Awesome. Do we have anything else under transact other legal business? That's it? All right. Agenda building.
Reorg.
Yes.
And typically, that's all we do, is that right?
We did discuss adding the
Did we wanna-
mascot to,
Do we want to invite them to that meeting? Or try the next meeting?
Let's go for the
I
first.
would
Let's
say
go for
with the
first-
next meeting.
Yeah, the first meeting in,
Okay,
April maybe.
so reorg.
Is that here?
You have to
We'll
put
do that here.
Taylor's
Yep.
on that too, just because we won't have a finance
Oh,
committee,
yes,
or will
we
we
do
have
have
a
to
committee at
do-
that point?
We'll do the committee pieces. I think we'll have a fairly standard agenda. We'll just have reorg all in the beginning part, and then we'll
Okay.
do committee stuff after.
It's been a year since I remember going through it for the
Yeah.
first time, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, good thinking.
And, yeah.
And that'll be hybrid.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
you gotta come back.
Nope.
And, hopefully everybody, enjoys reorg next week, or in 2 weeks. All right, so that's it for agenda building. So we already had our executive session. Do we have any other executive sessions? Having that be taken off, we're at adjourn. I would like to get a motion to adjourn this meeting. First, second. All in favor? We're adjourning this meeting at 9:23.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.